Most of you, I am sure, have a favorite nativity scene or creche. Right? Perhaps it's the Hummel one of your grandmother's. Perhaps it's the craft that your kids made 30 or more years ago. Perhaps it's the olive wood souvenir from the Holy Land. Perhaps it's a kitschy pop art one, maybe with The Simpsons, or made of neon, or sentimental precious moments. Maybe it's an icon, a Greek icon, or it's a reproduction of Renaissance artwork. Now, around here in this building, my favorite one is designed to look like cut crystal. Would you click to the next slide, please? And better yet, it's plastic, it's acrylic, even less fuss and mess than real crystal. I like the size and the shape of it. I like the sharp angles. I like the way the light transmits and refracts and diffuses through it. It's austere and reserved, balancing the coolness of the crystal look with the warmth of the light. And like all nativities or creches, it's nice and tidy, even with its single camel and sheep. You guys know about livestock. They're messy, to say the least, right? Now, I want you to imagine having Christmas dinner in your barn or shed, like as it is right now. No makeover, no staging, none of it, just the way it is when you get home tonight. It would be a total mess, wouldn't it? And yet that's exactly what we're presented with in Jesus' birth. And then the nasty field hand shepherds show up at the end, adding to the mess. All right, there's not enough sanitizer in the world to make this a germ-free experience. And for those who are unsure as to the historicity of Jesus' birth, all right, whether or not it really happened or if it really happened this way, well, Jesus was a historic person, and birth is still the only way that people come to be. So yes, he was born. But more than that, this story isn't the kind of thing you would make up to make someone's life more authentic or relevant. The ancient world is filled with fables and myths about famous origins, each one seeking to imbue the famous persona with extra capacities and faculties. The stories are propaganda and pretty transparent. See, the Bible's nativity doesn't do that to Jesus's. It doesn't do that. It doesn't do anything to add to Jesus's street cred. It's a fairly embarrassing story. It's not the sort of thing you would make up if it wasn't already true. So we have no reason to doubt the authenticity of St. Luke's account, even if a few of the details are a little hazy. Next slide, please. And yet, we so desperately want something to be as neat and tidy as our wishful nativity scenes. Right? Because our modern life just infects us and burdens us from the inside out. So it's maybe a bit of a chicken or the egg question. Do you and I find comfort in these neat and tidy nativity scenes, right? That is, do we project our longing for such an effortless life onto them? Or do the neat and tidy creches give us comfort? That is, do they give us an unrealistic expectation that then only they fulfill for us? See, either way, these unexamined assumptions and their escapism, none of it helps us get through our own messy everyday lives. Perhaps there's something here for us to return. In fact, I wonder if part of the reason for our affinity for such neat, tidy depictions of what was surely a messy event is that we humans are so messy in here and in here. And how much more so under the pressure when we and those around us just want to have a nice Christmas this year. The mess antagonizes us everywhere we go. In fact, just take this past year, right? With continuing COVID, supply chain disruptions, Afghanistan, the mess of Congress, right? Those are just some of the macro events. So it doesn't include the micro events of our own personal everyday lives, the deaths, the sicknesses, the disasters, the unemployment, and so forth. And then on top of that, our entire society today seems single-minded in agitating us to sickness and death, right? From apps on our phones that intend to occupy our attention 100% of the time because, FOMO, or to jobs that think we work for them 24/7, 365, to TV news that is just people shouting insults, to strangers around us on hair triggers ready to assault us or to Karen us at the drop of a hat, and public servants, from cops to school boards, who treat every interaction with the public as it's me or them survival. This is the one I may not come home from. And yet somehow, in all of that, we still feel the need to pretend that everything is okay. Your garage burns down, your water pipes burst, 3 family funerals in a row, and your taxes are overdue. Someone comes up to you, "How you doing, man?" "Oh, I'm fine. And you?" "Oh, yeah, I'm fine too." Who are we fooling? Ourselves, I guess. Right? The Nile's not just a river in Egypt. And so perhaps we expect our perfect and holy God's birth to be likewise perfect and holy. Because when we play God for ourselves with our own images and depictions on Facebook, Instagram, the family Christmas card, or even just drinking coffee at Brookshire or Country Bakery, we make everything about ourselves perfect. The miraculous arrival of God's own Son in human flesh doesn't need our help. In fact, an Instagram perfect birth would be counterproductive because we don't need another elitist to rule over us from afar. We need someone who knows how messy real life is. Or as the book of Hebrews puts it, "For we do not have a high priest in Jesus who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who in every respect has been tested as we are." Which is exactly what St. Luke tells us. A birth in a barn attended by shepherds and livestock. What a mess, just like we human beings really are. Pastor Angela T. Kabeb puts it this way: if the Son of God can arrive in such circumstances, so can truth, so can joy, so can peace, so can justice, so can hope, and so can love. All right, there's more to this story. This isn't just any old baby born into the mess of humanity. This baby is born for us, says the prophet Isaiah, to bring us peace, justice, and righteousness. Authority rests upon his shoulders already as a baby, and he will use that authority exactly as Isaiah promises, to break the yoke of burden for his people. He will grow up to suffer the very worst we humans can throw at him, innocently suffering and dying and shedding his holy and precious blood on the cross for us, so that finally and forever the yoke of burden from sin, death, and the devil is broken. Now, you and I know that coming here to worship this afternoon doesn't magically fix our burdens. Supply chain, COVID, social agitation and anger, broken hearts, and the like. And worship tonight's not supposed to. These messy things born of our ancient enemies of sin, death, and the devil simply cannot bear the weight of the authority that rests on these infant shoulders. They are shattered, crushed, and ground up because here in baby Jesus is God's perfect intention for us, then and now and always. Truth, joy, peace, justice, hope, love, and righteousness. Forgiveness, new life, and salvation. Grace and mercy. All of this in one real person with one real life. This is what we come here to worship tonight, to find and receive from God and to give to others, to give it to them so much that it breaks their yoke of burdens just like our own. In fact, when you get home later, take a look at 3, 4, and 5 on these yellow study and share inserts. You'll see some next steps in what I'm talking about. You see, God's not afraid to use the messiness of your life to deliver his promises. This is why I think that finally we do prefer these nice, tidy nativity scenes that we all know are not historical in a strict sense. Right? Beyond our silly denial, projection, unrealistic expectations, and escapism. You see, it's symbolically, in them we see a glimpse of the messiness of human life, of our lives, of your life, of my life. We see a glimpse of that messiness overcome, and a sense of wonder and adoration that it really happened just like Isaiah of old promised. And so they direct our hearts and our minds beyond our inner experiences of our outward circumstances. They lift up our eyes, as the psalmist says, to see our salvation coming to us. One that's not afraid of or in denial about what it means to be human, what God intends for his beloved human creatures, and what he will do in his zeal to make it so. Perhaps that's why my favorite nativity is still one from my childhood. It was given to me as a toddler, and it was made of plastic so that it could endure the rough treatment it would inevitably receive. The straw that mimics a thatched roof is worn away. The pieces are dinged and scratched. There's a 3-legged sheep. One might have even gotten chewed on by the dog. And the characters themselves are unrealistic and politically incorrect, if you know what I mean. And the poor Virgin Mary's praying hands have been broken off and glued back on. And yet something bigger than these 5-inch figurines is on display, a sign of the truth that is embodied in them. In this child born for us, there shall be endless peace. Amen.